Illinois. And I did share with you guys her website last week is Dr. Pamela Denise Long. So let me bring her here to the stage. Good morning.
Morning. Good
Doing
morning.
great.
How are you?
Good. I'm so excited. I'm so
Me
excited
too.
to have you here. So I'll just let you introduce yourself to our audience and let us know, I let everybody know you're running for senator of Illinois, but definitely share more about your campaign with us.
Yeah, so I'm really excited to be here. So thank you for having me. It's good to see you again. I am Dr. Pamela Denise Long. I go by Denise. I'm a native Mississippian, and I moved to Illinois in 1991. Although I grew up in Chicago from 8 to 4, not Chicago, but Kankakee from 8 to 14.
Okay.
I'm not sure Kankakee is close enough to Chicago to be called a suburb, but it's definitely, up there. I am running for U.S. Senator for Illinois because, I'm a mom, I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, I'm a seventh generation American, and I've really had enough of the nonsense that's happening in the nation. And I think it's time for leadership that can deliver on promises and has the wherewithal, the expertise to actually implement policies that significantly change, improve the lives of American citizens and their children and grandchildren. I've been a Newsweek contributor, Fox News, Epoch TV, Black News Channel, all over the place, talking about the impacts of mass immigration on Americans overall, but particularly highlighting its impacts on Black Americans. One of the articles that I wrote for Newsweek a while ago, before I even really launched off into this real deep, was should Black Americans champion immigration? And I talked about the ways that
Mm.
we've been replaced in careers. Industries that used to be dominated by us have been turned over to other people. Talking about lineage-based investments, talking about what Americans First policy looks like for real. It's a beautiful slogan, but what does it look like in practice? And just in these streets, if you will, politically, advocating for the American people and making sure our financial, economic, social, and political equity is delivered in the nation that we've built.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for that because I've really seen, and I was playing a video from Brandon Lehman, and he was saying how, with the Somalis, and we'll just take them for example, they've stole all this money, they did all these things, they didn't try to enrich the Black community. I'm just saying. I mean, I'm not saying there's, honor amongst thieves, but at the same time, it's like you took money and people had mercy on you. And
Yeah.
instead of repaying the American country, the United States with you guys being more educated, let's just say starting more businesses, right?
Mhm.
To contribute to, proper capitalism and, bringing up your people, right?
Mm.
You decided to stay on welfare and not only stay on welfare, but take advantage of those programs to the point and tune of billions of dollars. And then look at us like, how dare you tell us that we're, you know, mistreating you? And it's like, whoa. It's just this mindset and this entitlement for some that are not Americans, they're naturalized citizens, right? Or
Mm.
refugees that have come here. And I've told people, refugees are not necessarily vetted, right? We have mercy and then we bring them here. But people who come through the proper ports of entry, they actually want to be American citizens. And I didn't know, as a senator, as a candidate for senator, could you speak to that in wanting to make sure that people are properly vetted, even if they come over as a refugee?
Yeah, so this is such a great question because I think the Biden administration, with then DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, really confused people about these terms: immigrants, alien, refugee, and asylee or asylum seekers, right?
Mhm.
A refugee, according to immigration law, is vetted when they are outside the country.
Okay.
Their situation is vetted, and we invite them into the country in a vetted status. An asylum seeker makes it to a port of entry, or they are inside the United States, say they came over here for a vacation or for family and something happened. And they are vetted or they request asylum because of fear of substantiated and grounded fear of persecution based on 5 protected characteristics, like, race, I believe sex, political opinion, and
Hmm.
some other
Hmm.
protected groups. But it's
Right.
a grounded fear of persecution. So it's not just, I don't want to go home, or I want a better job, or your country is more developed than my country. It is under specific grounds that you can prove that if you were to go back to your homeland, you would be injured because of those
Right.
one or more of those 5 grounds. And so, to the point about people coming over here, that we provide a safe haven
Hmm.
for various reasons. They came over because of family members here, and we let them do the chain migration, which we really
Yes.
need to revisit. Or
Hmm.
they came over on a visa and they didn't leave, so they
Yeah,
violated
that happens too.
right. But for whatever reason, what we're finding, for whatever reason they stay, we're finding that people have come over here and they've taken advantage of our generosity, and they've lined their pockets in ways that were wasteful, fraudulent, and really abusive of the privilege that we
Hmm.
granted them to be
Right.
here. We know that those folks who do that. So let's say this: a lot of people do not like the United States, and a lot of people blame the United States for every ill that their country has experienced. Those folks are here to take, and they make it very,
Mhm.
very clear. You've probably seen the videos where
Yes.
immigrants are saying, don't expect us to come over here to help you. We're here to get what we came to
Right.
get. If I
Right.
can come up at your
Hmm.
expense, then I don't really care, because
Right.
we're here to take back, as they would say, some things. Now,
Hmm.
mind you, many of these people don't go back to their countries and build up the nation, right? I believe there are
Right.
children still swimming in poop water in parts of Nigeria, but there are
Mhm.
Nigerian doctors, engineers, and nurses
Here.
all over the Western world, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So people are here to help themselves.
Wow. Wow. It's truly sad that is occurring. So, like my mind was racing. I was like, okay, what question am I going to ask you next? Oh, the Pause Act. Now, this was introduced by Chip Roy, I want to say in late last year, between November and December. And part of his act, right, he wants to make sure that birthright citizenship is clarified. We've got SCOTUS that's going to be hearing that hopefully in April of this year to determine that. But he also was talking about putting a pause, right, on immigration as we had done in the early 1900s in this country. Now, if you were elected, and I'm going to say when you are elected, we're going to just speak that into
But yeah,
existence. When you are elected into the Senate, if it has not yet passed, would that be a bill that you would be in favor of?
I've been talking about immigration. The short answer is yes. I like Chip Roy. I had the opportunity to actually meet him on the steps of the Capitol after he just left the floor, talking
Mhm.
about child trafficking and
Mm.
whatnot, of women and girls. Yeah, a couple summers ago. It was really awesome. I absolutely would. I think I've been talking about this since 2000, and whenever the Haitian migrant crisis happened, I wrote an article
Okay.
about it. That doesn't matter the skin color of the people who are flooding the nation. We're full. We can't take in all the
Right.
people who want to be here. I was also one of the first people, I'm pretty sure, to consistently publicly champion a moratorium on immigration, both
Mhm.
legal and illegal. I also woke up this idea about mass immigration, both legal and illegal, is wrong. It's still mass immigration, to break this thinking amongst American people that, oh, if you make them legal, it's okay. No, it's still mass immigration. There are only so many jobs, so many homes, so much stress on our infrastructure that starts to negatively affect us. We need a moratorium. And look, here's the other thing, Dr. Nichols, not just on H-1Bs, but all the visas. There are
Yes.
different types of visas that people
Mhm.
can move and work between. We need to look at who is here.
Mhm.
We need to make sure that we have zero tolerance. I'm Barbara Jordan on this one. Zero tolerance for illegal
Right.
immigration, and the employees, the employers who hire illegals need to be penalized severely, and the elected officials who
Mhm.
harbor
Yeah.
illegal aliens need to have accountability as well. And I'm not seeing enough of that. So yes, I will sign the law. And I will also advance legislation that talks about applying existing immigration law and existing criminal and civil law against those folks who are harboring illegal aliens, because federal jurisdiction says that immigration policy is a job of the federal government. We do not have a secure nation if we
Mhm.
can't control our own borders, and those who would seek to undermine our security need to be held accountable.
Right, right. And you're referring to in the Constitution where it talks about the Naturalization Act and where it specifically states, okay, let's have our ears open. States cannot dictate immigration law. They have to follow law that already has been legislated by our Congress, and Congress only has the ability to alter immigration law. That's it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And the Supreme Court reinforced back when Texas and other Florida and other more conservative leaning
Mhm.
states sued Joe Biden. The Supreme Court reinforced, this same conservative court, right, that we have now,
Yes.
reinforced that immigration policy and enforcement, specifically immigration enforcement, is within the jurisdiction of the federal government. So here we are in a situation where we have the laws on the books to both secure the borders and also hold people accountable, private businesses and NGOs, as well as elected officials, and it's not being used.
Right, right. It's not being done because, and this is my opinion, allegedly, people are making money on the back
Oh,
end,
yes.
hand over
Okay.
fist. This is about money.
Yeah, and you're right. We did a Twitter space about NGOs and how there was, potentially money laundering, where the government, our own government, was giving money to these non-governmental organizations, and those non-governmental organizations were helping illegals traverse the Darien Gap, right, in Central America in
Yes.
order to get here, giving them money, so aiding and abetting
Mhm.
basically their illegal entry, which is a crime. Being present in the country in and of itself is a civil offense, but
Right,
entering the country illegally is indeed a crime.
right. It is. And it's very interesting how Representative Crockett, tries to say it's not a crime. I'm like, it is a crime, ma'am.
Right.
It's a civil infraction. It's still a crime.
Yeah, it's a civil infraction to be in the country illegally. It
Right,
is a crime to enter the country illegally.
right.
And the
Exactly.
difference might be you overstayed your visa,
Mhm.
right? And you cross the border versus you cross the border illegally.
Right, right. Okay, so now we got to get into some more of this wonderful news. As you know, President Trump, he's been like living in dog years this time. He was
Hmm.
living in dog years the first time, but now he's really, really full steam ahead with just a lot of the different policies and measures he's putting forth. I know some of them, he's going to be visiting Davos, coming up here with the World Economic Forum. And some of the things that he's also trying to put in place are stopping companies like Vanguard and BlackRock from purchasing single family homes and artificially inflating
Yeah.
our housing market. And so I wanted to get your take on that because that really, if he's able to really do that, this will make way for those who want to have a home. And he's also trying to, work with the Federal Reserve to lower the interest rates.
Absolutely. Private equity firms and large or businesses should not be able to purchase homes in the quantity that they
Mhm.
are. It's sort of a monopoly and an antitrust issue in my opinion. I do believe that if he's able to work out this deal, we would have to codify that into law so that it's secured, because the next person will come along and have their own perspective on it.
Mhm.
Interest rates, great. A lot of people are not selling right now because they have stellar interest rates that they were able to get. And the difference in a couple percentage points is significant, especially when we also don't have where a lot of people are living hand to mouth because wages have been suppressed all these years with mass immigration. So when I talk about improving the economic life of Americans, it's a constellation of policies and practices that need to happen in order to do that, right? On this one hand, you have both legal and illegal mass immigration. You have interest rates. You have big companies trying to buy up homes. You even have elected officials who are owned by their donors. Let's talk about that. Who aren't doing the things that they need to do in order to
Yeah.
secure life, liberty, and happiness, and all the beautiful things for the American citizens who sent them up there to do the job. So,
Wow. I mean, it's a big job, but what I'm grateful for in the Senate is that there are things that can be done to really help change the lives of American people. And I'll give you this last question because this one's kind of a big one. So right now, they're not threatening another government shutdown, but recently the ACA, they've agreed to extend that for 3 years, right? I want to get your perspective on that because I know that President Donald Trump also is trying to look into, maybe another something else that we can do besides the ACA. In my opinion, that benefits insurance companies, not the people. So I wanted to ask you about that, but I also wanted to ask you, looking at the last government shutdown, do
mm.
you think it could have been avoided? And if you had been there, it's just a wonderful hypothetical. What do you think could have been done to mitigate what happened?
Whew, man. So, I don't agree with extending the enhanced subsidies, which is what they're talking about here. During the
Mhm.
COVID pandemic era, they passed some enhanced subsidies to cover people up to and including those who make 400% the federal poverty level. So that's like
Mm.
$65,000 for an individual, and I think like $84,000 for a couple. So that's what they're talking about. And notice that they don't generally put numbers on that.
Mhm. Right.
I don't think that that should be extended because since COVID, what are we, 6 years almost come
Yeah.
March?
Yep.
Okay. Everybody up there should have been looking at and planning what's the off ramp for these subsidies, and they weren't.
Right. Mhm.
I believe Republicans have been attempting to gut Obamacare and get rid of it and proffer something different since the ACA was passed. So, how many years are we post ACA at this point? So, what have folks been doing when
Mhm.
all of this has been on the books, right? The Children's Health Insurance Plan, right, program is up for reauthorization again
Mm.
in 2017 when I am sworn in. So, are we going to have another crisis that people haven't planned for? So, I'm a planner, I'm a project manager, amongst the many other things I do. My doctorate is in organizational development, and my specialty is implementation science, which is what my research focused on. So, how do you go about taking a vision, a project, and the steps needed to make it efficient and effective at the end?
Right.
So, I start where we want to end. I think when it comes to the shutdown, I would plan better. I would be advancing the conversation about the things that are coming up for reauthorization and
Mhm.
how do we go about solving them. We're so busy with, I don't know, rhetoric and throwing bombs at each other that they aren't doing that basic project management sort of stuff. Were I in DC at the time the shutdown would happened, I would have certainly tried to tone down some of the rhetoric. I would hope that I would have been doing a good enough job watching the clock and the calendar that I would have
Right.
known and had processes in place already to address the healthcare crisis. Since they have extended the subsidies or are planning to extend the subsidies, I am going to push for resolving this in my tenure. So I'll have 6 years in the first term at the Senate.
Right.
Making sure that we are implementing health insurance programs that benefit the citizen. So, health savings accounts, medical savings accounts that are guaranteed renewable. It can inherit the money. You can bequeath it, I should say. You can use the money for retirement funds if you don't use it all, and making sure that we're subsidizing the consumer. But here's the other thing. When I run the models on going back to cash rather than using insurance, where people say I can go to my dentist and pay $200 instead of paying $1,000 a month for
Right.
I'd like to see more catastrophic health care so that you have
Mhm.
that when you really need it. And
Mhm.
otherwise, people using cash and health and medical savings accounts instead of spending all this money on insurance that most of us don't actually
Mhm.
get the value out of in the first place.
Mhm.
And contrary to the president's perspective, I don't think that your medical bills that you're delinquent on should be on your credit. I think Biden was
Mhm.
right on that. One of the few times I've agreed with him, but when it's right, it's right. The way
Right.
that we have made healthcare so unaffordable, it seems wrong to me to penalize the
Yeah.
people who can't pay for it.
Yeah, it is really crazy. And I'm glad that you brought up, just the HSA, the health savings account, because I've always seen like if you're in a state and you're already paying taxes, right? It to me it makes sense for each and every resident of a state. I live here in Georgia to have a HSA account. So if you need over the counter medication or, whatever it is, or even, to go to your pharmacy if you have to go to the doctor to your point and you pay you know, your visit or whatever, it's already there in an
Right.
account for you. It's not being messed with by insurance companies who are middlemen, by the way, but that's a whole nother
Right.
conversation. But just really having that one to one with the doctor. I really like the idea of just a cash payment system
Yeah.
where the
Getting
insurance
back.
companies are completely out of the way.
Yeah, and the models that I've run show that the first year or two would be like an economic shock where everybody's trying to figure out how the systems work. But we can also
Mhm.
design things, right, and
Mhm.
off ramp things rather than just having
Yes.
this cliff to make that transition work better. And then within 5 years, we're back to a system where if
Mhm.
you pay by the method that you have. In addition to that, think about this, Dr. Nichols, when we don't have all these other people here using our system, right, and our
Come on.
infrastructure, raising the prices because they're using the ER as their
Mhm.
primary care physician, right?
Right. Mhm.
Bringing all of these, foreign pathogens. Let's just be real. The
Yeah.
vaccination system as well as health is different from country to
Yeah.
country. Then we also
Yeah.
see a decrease in the overhead for hospitals and the like. So once again, it's a constellation effect, and that I think our Congress needs to do a better job of thinking about when we are writing laws, and that's another thing, a strength that I bring besides me being a healthcare practitioner, occupational therapist for 30 years. I'm keen on designing systems that are efficient, effective, and prevent waste, fraud, and abuse. So there's a manageable complexity that my expertise can bring to this. And I'm looking forward to how I can serve the people.
Yeah, because I think a lot of the fraud that has been found, it's always been there. And I kept telling my audience this. I was like, it's somebody on the inside. This is an inside job. Okay. It's not an outside job. It
Well,
is somebody
nobody
on the inside that knows what's going on.
Well, and nobody's watching the books. We write these
Mhm.
checks and
Yeah.
aren't feeling any sense of responsibility. As a healthcare practitioner, I've seen, before we changed how we do elder care,
Mhm.
I saw that where we were billing Medicare like $800 per patient who had a stroke and was getting physical occupational therapy and speech therapy. And that didn't even include the residential element and the nursing
Right.
element. That's just a
And
rehabilitation.
transportation.
Oh my gosh. And it's wild. No one's really watching the money. There's a money
Mhm.
tree that's shaking in
Mhm.
Washington, D.C., and it's not shaking upon the people, it's shaking upon businesses and foreign entities as well.
Yeah, yeah, and the NGOs, right?
For
And so
sure.
I'm kinda glad that they are, kind of, turning off the faucet, so to speak, in
Mhm.
Washington in a lot of these areas, and hit dogs are hollering because they're mad because their money's stopping. But
Right.
it's a good thing,
Yes.
because we really need to see, to your point, where the money's going, who it's going to, and why it's going there. Because we found out in Minneapolis, unfortunately, that some of this money is going towards terrorist organizations. They're literally taking millions of dollars through the airport and taking it to Somalia. It's like they're a war torn country. Why are you taking millions of dollars to a war torn country? Somebody else is benefiting from that money. That's
Oh
there.
yeah, absolutely. And some in Minneapolis is just one place, and even if it's
Right.
like we think about the feed the children or whatever that
Feeding
program,
our future.
feeding our future, right? Whatever
Yes.
that program and the many people who
Mhm.
were involved with that. It's not even the tip of the iceberg. It is a snowflake,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
in that
Absolutely.
iceberg because it's happening everywhere. And it's not just happening
Mhm.
amongst foreigners, it's happening amongst Americans, and it's happening amongst legitimate cornerstone organizations as well.
Yeah.
All of it
Yeah.
needs to be audited, and we need to treat the people's money with more respect than we have been over this generation.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining me this morning. Please tell people where they can follow you, where they can donate to you, because it costs a lot of money to do this, you guys. We need to support Dr. Pamela Denise Long.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on the show. I appreciate it. I'm here fighting for the people, and I'm doing it in a different way. If you haven't checked out my Newsweek column, feel free to do so. Please do so. I started writing for them, I think, into 2020. And I am on Facebook, Long for Senate 2026. So that's Long, FOR Senate 2026. You can find me on Twitter X with the same at handle. You can also find me when you go to Twitter. If you look in the search bar, just type Pamela Denise Long, you'll find my personal Twitter, and you'll also find my campaign line there. And please, or campaign profile, please take a look at my website, which is www.long forsenate2026.com. There's a green button on there for donating. Please donate to the campaign. We're actually right now, Dr. Nichols, in the midst of a money bomb campaign where
Okay.
we're
All right.
asking 1,000 people to donate $25 in the next
Okay.
26 hours. So 2626, because the election is in 2026. That will help us purchase more campaign materials. I am downstate Illinois, so I travel to Chicago quite a bit, some 40,000 miles on my car. And it'll help us just connect with more voters. We're trying to win this U.S. Senate election. Early voting starts February 5th, and the
Okay.
actual election is on St. Patrick's Day. So we want to make sure people vote early for me if they
Mhm.
can, or they definitely plan to show up on St. Patrick's Day to make sure that we win this U.S. Senate seat, so that we win for you and changing your bottom line, and the bottom line for your children and grandchildren's future as well.
Yes, because even though, Dr. Pamela Denise Long is in Illinois, the Senate affects all of us.
That
It
part.
affects all of us. And so we need a proper Senate in place with people with decent values like Dr. Pamela Denise Long, who really want to do better for our country and make our country better. Thank you so much for joining me here this morning.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Okay, guys. So with that, we're going to take a quick break and then we're going to get into some more breaking news. So thank you so much for joining me here on Unfiltered Vision News, and we will see you on the other side.
At All Sides, we believe unbiased news doesn't exist. To get more clicks and make more money, media outlets often report news with a left, right, or sensational slant, either to suit their own agenda or because by telling us what we want to hear, we'll come back for more. Several news outlets in the center do a good job of portraying both sides equitably, but for the most part, American news media is biased. Bias isn't necessarily a bad thing. The key is to get multiple perspectives. But making matters worse, social media and internet search results are heavily filtered, showing us the most popular opinion or results that match our preferences and make us happy. That means we're all living in filter bubbles, where we're only exposed to viewpoints we already agree with, making us less informed and less tolerant of different people and ideas. At All Sides, we give bias ratings for hundreds of media outlets. By freeing people from filter bubbles and providing different perspectives, we can all be better equipped to understand the world and each other. So how do we do it?
And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me here on Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern. My name is Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols, and I will be your host. Thank you guys so much for joining me here on our Prayer with Friday, where we pray Thanksgiving and cover going into the weekend. Now, there are a few more videos that I wanted to hit before we finish today's broadcast. And thanks again for Dr. Pamela Denise Long joining us here on the program. And guys, please make sure that you visit her website. That's Long for Senate 2026, Long for Senate 2026, and that's FOR. And also, she said they're trying to do a money bomb next 24 hours. Okay. So make sure that you visit her website. $25. I know it can be a lot for some, but for some people, that's lunch for one person with a tip. Just saying. So if you have the financial ability to do so, please visit her website. That's longforsenate2026.com, because it takes a lot of money to do this.